We did,
Oh, I watched True Detective, the third season of True Detective.
I don't know what that is.
So it's an HBO series where they follow like a police officer trying to solve murders and stuff. And so this one was really good because it jumped time between when the crime first happens, 10 years after the crime, and when the detectives like the old, senile, like older, retired dude. And it kind of, so it's jumping back and forth through those time periods, telling the story of how he was involved with this child murder and disappearance of the girl. And so it was interesting. So it's a good series.
Was it like a cold case or?
No, like he got the case. He was the detective that found, like it was the whole thing is that the brother and sister disappeared, and then he found the brother because the brother gets murdered, but they can't find the girl. And so then 10 years later, like somehow the girl's fingerprints popped up in a store robbery. So then that recreates and then it's not until like he's way retired, he's like way old, that they're doing like a television special on the case, and so they're interviewing him. So that's kind of the basis to show the three different time periods.
So what ended up happening with her?
The plot gets a little crazy because in theory, like the way it works.
This is a true story, right?
No.
Oh.
I don't think it is, because it's like crazy because the rich family's daughter, who's a little bit nuts, who lost a child, kidnaps the girl, and while she was doing that, they accidentally killed the boy.
Oh.
And then somehow the girl escapes later and gets kind of a normal life, and at the very end, since he's kind of has Alzheimer's, he finds her, but then forgets why he went there.
Oh.
And so he talks to her and stuff, but he can't really remember why he was there.
Interesting. Well, the one I haven't seen yet, but that I've been meaning to, though I don't know if I want to, is the Ted Bundy tapes. But everyone that I know has watched it.
I tried watching that. You know, it's interesting because we live in the Northwest, and so they talk about Seattle, and they show you know where he was and when he was in Corvallis and whatnot. But I couldn't get into it. I haven't finished it yet. I'll probably go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Because I was watching it, and it wasn't that great, and then I saw the Formula One thing, and I was like, oh, I'm supposed to watch that.
Well, I was going to say just then, I'm not a fan of serial killers, and then I thought I should probably rephrase when I actually say it too. I'm not a fan of serial killer movies and television shows. I just don't find it interesting at all. But other people really love the psychology of it.
I find it interesting if it's true.
Yeah.
Like that, what's that? The one show used to do that Journey into Madness, and they would do documentaries on like all the crazy serial killers.
Oh.
So you just try and get into that, and you're like, holy crap, like how did they?
Well, I think it's interesting with Ted Bundy because they would have caught him so much sooner, but the states weren't communicating. They didn't have systems in place to communicate with one another, it sounds like, back then. And he was also really cocky, and he kept pushing it.
Yeah, and there was an aspect of it where they couldn't believe that he did it.
Yeah.
Like, because he was such this clean-cut, smooth-talking dude, right? Not like...
Well, my favorite things that I watch are usually more historical. There's a movie, it's a bee monster movie, which I really enjoyed, and you would just absolutely, I don't know, you'd probably be like trying to sharpen a knife to like cut your wrists, but it was about the Dyatlov Pass incident. Dyatlov, is that it?
I don't know.
So it's about these hikers, I think it takes place in Russia, true story, but these hikers were hiking out into the wilderness in winter, everything's snow, and they never came out, and so eventually a rescue team was sent in to find them, and they were all found, but in like various crazy things, like they found the tent and it had been ripped open from the inside, not the outside.
Oh, so they got like hypothermia poisoning, or?
Yeah, and so they don't know exactly what it is that happened. It is hot, right?
Yeah, it's because we're sitting in the direct sun.
I know, I'm hoping I get freckles from this, but yeah.
That's what you said you wanted, right?
Yeah, and so, but we're probably gonna have to switch because I'm losing the sun. Anyway, so in the incident, like they were found in various states of undress. Like some of them were found, they took off all their clothes and they took off. It's not normal. One person, they had like
Haven't you ever read like the movie, like those guys that climb? God, I can't believe I'm blanking on that. But when they climb in the Himalayas, right? They get oxygen deprivation and they start to like,
Yeah,
they
it's
start
true.
peeling off jackets and like.
That's
doing
true.
all
That's
sorts
what
of
they
crazy
think
shit.
might have happened. But then it goes crazier. There was this person that had no damage to the outside of their body, but on the inside, like all their bones were broken, massive internal bleeding, like everything was pulverized inside them, but there was no bruising on the outside. That was crazy. And then another person
Supposed
like
to use a phone book. Look, that's what they do in the police movies when they don't want to show marks.
yeah, those mutant bears are getting really creative.
No, I don't know.
And then
You asked for an explanation, I gave you one.
thank you. Yeah, phone books. And then another one was Chernobyl phone books, just to make it more interesting. And another person, like their tongue was completely gone, and just like crazy.
Like somebody cut it out.
But there was no like distress. It looked like there was no like. Anyway, so they never figured out what happened to these guys. It was interesting. And then there's another one. It happened here in the U.S. I think, and it was maybe Germany. It was a settlement, and the whole family was murdered, and they never found the person who did it. And so like the whole family was killed, and they came back a while later, and they found that like the animals were still being fed, and the house was like someone was still living in the house, and they couldn't figure it out.
You have to look that one up for me.
Which one? This
The
one?
story you're telling, because I want to read
It's
more
so
about
good. They think that there was someone like living in the attic watching them, and this person had just been living there. And then after he killed them all, he kept living there. Fucking crazy. And this one starts with a D. Anyway, I will find it for you. But
Yeah,
those are
please.
the kind of things that I love watching. I wish they made more movies like that based on unsolved mysteries that happen that were just
Yeah, but I mean,
crazy.
usually, there's probably a reasonable explanation of that stuff. It's not like aliens are coming down and doing it.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
We can always hope.
I don't know.
And then there's one that I don't want to ever see, but it was really fascinating. I would never ever go see the movie of it. But Bluebeard, the story of Bluebeard. Like I thought he was the pirate, but he's actually this guy, and he murdered all of his wives, and it was
I
horrific.
have to go look at that.
There's so many the old serial killers, like the ones from like way back in the day, the ones who were so rich that they had their staff bringing peasants in
Yeah,
to kill.
right. Yeah,
that I
that's-
think is
yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
It's just like how can you be so rich that you are above the law and that people will do anything that you want?
That's kind of what, I think, I know it's sad to say, we kind of do, right?
Oh yeah.
In terms of society, like we haven't had a serial killer, murderer type situation happen recently.
True.
It's mainly been mass shootings, which is crazy enough, but there hasn't been a serial. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We haven't had that
No.
in a while, which I'm not saying I want that, but it just seems like we're probably due for something to happen.
Okay, but what was I
Yeah.
just saying? Then they think that there are 30 serial killers operating at any moment.
Right. So then, like at a certain point, nobody's talking about that. Nobody's been caught recently. You know
And
what I
how
mean?
does that happen?
And there hasn't been like in this area since, like I said, we were in the Northwest. We grew up, and they would always talk about the Green River Killer, right?
Yes.
And that was a big,
But I don't really know anything about that.
big case. But like I remember growing up, they would talk about it a lot.
Hmm.
And then what's his name was kidnapping kids, Leslie Allen Dodd, right? The guy in Vancouver.
Mm-mm.
You
I don't know
remember
about that.
Yeah, no, he was like kidnapping kids and like killing them and doing stuff.
I do remember there was
And
that
then
one.
He got caught because he went to a movie theater and tried to grab a kid, and then that's how he got caught.
That's good. I do remember one. I think it was in Portland, but they found 2 people in barrels. I think in the driveway.
Yeah, the 2 girls.
Is that person?
Yeah. It's
Oh.
it happened nearby here, right? But it was like that guy was psycho, right? Because it was his friend, his daughter's friend, and then like he did it, put him in barrels, put him underneath the jacuzzi pad, and then he had the news come talk. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had the news come in, and they're sitting there, and he's like talking to the news. That's what made the reporter Anna Song so famous, is because he would only talk to her.
Oh God, wouldn't that be so creepy?
Yeah.
Oh man, you couldn't pay me enough. I wouldn't do it. Because the fear of that person getting latched onto you, and then the fear of them ever getting out and coming for you.
I don't know if he's dead or he's on death row.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a question that I had. One of my friends brought it up to me. Why are people on death row for so long?
Oh, because it goes through appeals and whatnot.
Yeah, but like years
Yeah.
and years. I mean, how messed up that these people are just sitting there like waiting to die. It's fucking crazy. Can you imagine like what must be going through your mind on death row?
Well, some of them, like, that Wesley Allen Dodd, he got on death row and he said, do it right away. He was like, I don't want to appeal, I don't want to, just kill me. And he even said, like, they should kill him. Like, he was like, I'm sick, kill me.
Well, I think that's why they were trying to keep, from what I was hearing about the people who watched that documentary about Ted Bundy, it's just like they were trying to keep him alive because he'd say, I'll give you more information.
Yeah.
And eventually it's like, we don't care.
Yeah.
But I guess he said...
I don't know if, like, the Green River Killer, was he on death row? All these things I have to go look up, but, like, yeah, I have to go look that up.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy that one about the axe murders. Ooh, there's the other one. They made a show about her with Christina Ricci. It starts with a V, I think.
No, you're talking about Borden.
Yes, Liz Borden.
Lizzie Borden.
Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
She was interesting. The fact that, like, she's another one that was so rich that they didn't really think that they were, like, a really nice, respectable family, right?
Well, no.
And she killed her.
No. So, like, the way the story, like, her family had money, but her parents were, like, what they think happened was that the family had money, but the parents, like the father in particular, was very frugal, and so he wouldn't let her spend money. And so that's part of what they drove her to do it. And then at the time, they nobody in society believed that she could do it. Nobody in society believed that she was the murderer, and they blamed it on a Portuguese immigrant. They were blaming them because there was an influx of Portuguese immigrants, so they were blaming it on immigrants at the time.
Well, didn't they say that she stabbed like one of the parents like 40 times?
No, with an axe.
With an axe, hacked him like 40 times.
Yeah, so like the way it worked is she found her father napping on the sofa.
But then someone was upstairs. Was that the mom?
Then Kit went up to the mom and killed her.
Fucking crazy.
And then, we should go see this, but I think it's still there. My sister-in-law took me years ago. There's a portrait of her in an antique store in Selwood.
Yeah.
And it's freaky. It's a freaky portrait.
Really?
Yeah, you like walk, and it's one of those ones where like
the
eyes kind of
you?
follow you. You know. Yeah. I don't know I wonder if it's still there, but my sister-in-law took me a long time.
We should do that.
You can pay, like now you can go stay at that house.
Okay.
Like, because it's supposed to be haunted, right? So you can go stay at the house.
You know, the creepiest place I've ever been was, well, there's a few creepy places, but I think the creepiest by notoriety is the lighthouse in Newport. Not Yaquina Bay, what's it called?
I don't know. Why would that be creepy?
Because there's a ghost there and it's famous, and that's why people are always going to this lighthouse in Newport, Oregon.
Really? I didn't know that.
Because there's this woman named Muriel who died there. So her father was the lighthouse keeper, and he left for something to go get supplies, but he left her there alone, and when he came back there was blood on the stairs.
Okay, so she fell. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a hatch. Well, there was blood on the stairs, and then there's this hatch, like you go up to the top, and if you can open this hatch and it goes straight down into the ocean for like, I don't know, like pulling up supplies from a boat. I don't fucking know. But they think that someone killed her and then threw her body down there because like the blood was leading up to that.
So she could have like fell, hit her head, and then stumbled.
And then opened it and threw herself in. Yeah, it's possible, but nobody knows what happened.
But it's like that girl in California, right? You ever hear about that story? Mm-hmm. So I'll send you the video. There's like YouTube video of security footage of her staying at this hotel in Los Angeles. I think it's Los Angeles. And she's acting kind of odd. And she like gets in the elevator and like hides. And then she like looks out and like she's kind of acting kind of paranoid. And then they end up like she disappears. And they can't find her. And they end up finding her in a water tank on the roof of the hotel.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, they added that into the black tapes. Yeah,
yeah. So
they made a movie about that too.
Yeah, so that was like, yeah.
I think that was the inspiration for. Well, it's also I think a Japanese movie, but like Dark Water.
Oh, I don't know.
With Jennifer Connelly. I think it's the same thing. Anyway, no, yeah, that story because that's in California, right?
Yeah. So it's weird to watch that YouTube video because she is acting a little quirky.
Yeah.
Like what's going on?
That was really interesting. there's a really interesting podcast called Black Tapes. I don't know if you would like it. It's pretty dark, but it's about putting together like all of this dark shit from our history and compiling it into this like theory about like the evil that's coalescing and why do all these things keep happening. But that was a portion of the Black Tapes. But the Black Tapes scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I don't like
It's all
to be
fiction and
scared.
real.
But
Yes.
I find that some of that stuff interesting
Well, there's this
because
one.
usually to me like there's like a reasonable explanation.
Yes. You are really good at taking
Like-
the fun and mystery out of things.
Like the John Benet Ramsey murder. Right? It's like, come on, the brother did it. Come on.
I don't remember that. I remember she was like a beauty queen.
Yeah, and then like she ended up dead.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's about as much as
And
I
then nobody could figure out why. And they thought the parents weren't cooperating enough, and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes me think that the brother did it.
Well, there's this one podcast which is phenomenal, and in this podcast, it was talking about there's this person. They're in this little cabin, and all of a sudden, someone's beating on the door. But in the podcast, it was done so well that it's just kind of it's talking her inner monologue, and then all of a sudden, you start hearing like this smashing on the door. It scared the shit out of me. I was driving through Selwood, and this happened, and it scared me so bad. Like I hit the brakes a little bit. It was so fucking scary. It was so well done in the podcast. I just didn't see it coming. And then I held my breath for like another 45 seconds until it resolved because it was horrifying. But it's because people were disappearing in the podcast, and I love shit like that when people disappear.
We should stop filming.